as I was saying, um, you know, in order to make this work, you're going to need to really work on adding additional explanatory information, content, instructions. I mean, you have really good bones here, really good seeds for your activity. It's a fabulous idea. You're thinking it through. I can see you thinking it through. And you just need to refine and consolidate and really think things through from the student perspective. I mean, it's really, really vital that you think about a student and assume nothing, assume nothing about the student. Assume that they don't know anything about rubrics or peer self-evaluation or about alternative education or about, co-creating anything or about, doing any of the things that you're trying to ask them to do, and that you have to explain everything to them and give them models and give them examples and give them instructions and, kind of step them through everything very clearly so that there's no confusion, so that, it's very clear the activity that you want them to do, which is to co-create a rubric that will be used in this course to peer and self-assess. That's what you want to get to. In order to do that, you have to really set it up and scaffold it and instruct it and design it so that the students are going to not have any questions. You want to, anticipate everything that you can in terms of the design of that activity. So, for example, I don't understand how they're going to vote. How are they going to vote? Oh, I see you do have sample rubrics there. Cool, I missed that. So yeah, like I said, you have the bones here, and I know you've been thinking this through and really, puzzling it out. So I know you're working on it and trying to figure it out, and you're doing a great job at it so far. But I honestly think that you could collapse this all into one discussion and just use the different discussion threads for these different areas. And create one thread that is create a rubric and vote, and another thread that is revise and vote, and another that is finalize the rubric, and just collapse it all. I really think that you will be much happier, and so will the students, in terms of just having one place to go as opposed to three. So your final thesis project, I'm not really sure. Based on what's here, you need a little more information and instruction, because I think that this is also the place where they're going to post their final project. But you're saying here that they're also going to post the topics that they're considering. So this needs to be much better explained. So, I mean, I think that's just sort of in general that, everything needs to be a little bit better explained, more instructional cues, more information, better contextual titles. In your actual discussions, I did want to talk with you a little bit about that. These really are not very sort of discussion-inducing questions. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the potential of having student-led discussions instead of you trying to design the discussion questions for the class. I'll do that in the next post. So Mike, you know, I was talking to you about your discussion questions, and, you know, what led to the end of the modern school movement? Okay, this is not a discussion question. This is going to end up as an essay. Each student will do an essay, and what is there to discuss? You know, one student will, you know, they'll just look it up, and um, I'm sure that there were, you know, whatever kinds of circumstances that led to the end of that movement, and so there's kind of a right answer, and so it's not a good discussion question, um, and so my idea is to also, because of the topic of your course, is to consider the idea of student-led discussions and of having students from the readings and from you know, their own interests bring critical thinking questions on the topic of the module, which for this particular module has to do with the modern school movement. So take that whole sort of content area and have them come up with a critical thinking question that they would like to lead, so that they would have to become the expert on whatever it is that they want to talk about regarding that, you know, in the context of the modern school movement. They would be the ones to sort of facilitate that discussion. And Bill Pelz talked a lot about student-led discussions in his podcasted interview that I did with him. And so it's a technique that he uses extremely well and a lot. So if you're interested in how he does that, I would, you know, go listen to his podcast again. I really think that that would be more in the spirit of your course, you know, having each student become an expert based on their own interests in whatever the topic is, and bringing their own internal interests to it, and become the expert and lead the discussion on that topic. Now, in order to do that, you have to really well set up what a good critical thinking question is, how to design a good discussion question. So asking a yes or no question, or a question for which there is a good answer, or a right answer, is not a good question. We had a paper that you read at the beginning of this course that talked about designing good discussion questions. So you would need to help them understand and instruct them and guide them in the creation of it. And I was thinking, you know, maybe as part of the rubric, it might come out that you know, students would be evaluated on the quality of their discussions based on how many students were engaged and interested in participating in their discussions. And so they would teach each other kind of how, or give reinforcement of how to design good discussion questions, sort of by experience, so that those discussions that got lots of activity, the person who came up with that discussion question would be rated, you know, the highest, and because it was the most engaging, and the one that was most interacted in, or something. Anyway, just think that through, because you really need to do something about your discussion questions. Again, you need contextual titles for your blogging activities. In your readings, I noticed that you needed to actually create these as links. And I noticed also at the end that you don't really have a way for students to say goodbye to each other. There's no closure. I know you're trying to get feedback from the students here, but I don't really see how you're collecting the feedback. And so, you know, you still have some work to do.